Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including the feds releasing a finalized plan for cutbacks in the use of Colorado River water. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Karen Sanchez of KJZZ Radio, Wayne Chusky, also from KJZZ, and Jim Small of the Arizona Mirror. Panel, good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Cameron, we're going to start with you on water, which I think is apropos because you cover this a lot. Boy, today comes and all of a sudden we got ourselves a finalized plan for the next couple of years.
Yeah, finally. So this record of decision is what it's called, is what we've been waiting on basically. And it says that we're taking cuts, and so is California and so is Nevada, which is what we had expected to see. But it could have been worse. It could have been better. Ultimately, I think it's about a 20% cut for us lower basin states. But we are going to come back to the table in just a couple of years as the feds had laid out. So this is what it is for now, but this is far from over.
Yeah, as Cameron mentioned, a 2-year plan for a 10-year framework.
That's right, yeah. So these numbers are for the 10 years, but coming back every 2 years to kind of tweak, renegotiate based on where the level of the water is at in the Colorado River, which could be concerning given that these states, the upper basin and the lower basin, have had 2 years or more to negotiate trying to get to this point. And basically the feds had to step in because the states just couldn't agree. So the other 2 years is coming now. We're going to have to start those negotiations right now, and who knows if we're going to come to any other agreement by then.
And Jim, one of the sticking points is that the lower basin said we can do X, Y, and Z, but we need some help from the upper basin. According to this next 2-year plan, the upper basin kind of gets off scot-free, but the lower basin, as Cameron mentioned, it's not a total lose-lose thing here.
No, I mean, certainly better than I think what it could have been, for sure. But you know, that really gets to like the entire crux of these negotiations, and where everything is bogged down has been this division between who takes mandatory cuts and who doesn't. Lower basin states have been taking mandatory cuts and have been taking voluntary cuts and have done a lot to try to keep water in the river, to try to keep Lakes Mead and Lake Powell, to keep those reservoirs with as much water in them as possible. The upper basin states in these negotiations have so far refused to basically sign on to any mandatory cuts at any point. Their position is basically, we take cuts when Mother Nature gives us cuts. When we have low snowpack, like this year, for example, that's water that doesn't run down the mountains into the river, and that's water that they don't take and that they can't take. And so their position is, we don't want the government coming in and telling us what we have to cut. We'll just kind of be at the whims of nature and climate change and all of that. And the lower basin states are saying, yeah, but then that just puts all of the burden onto us, and we're the only ones that end up having to take these forced cuts when the river levels drop down. And Arizona, in particular, takes the brunt of those cuts. We were the last ones added onto this Colorado River Compact, the Central Arizona Project, which serves Phoenix and Tucson areas, the metro regions. It is the newest user of the water, essentially. And so it's the last in, first out. And that's why we end up seeing Arizona in this, taking, 760,000 acre feet of cuts, in this short 2-year temporary kind of fix.
But Cameron, isn't this similar or almost exactly the same as what the lower basin states had offered as far as cutbacks are concerned?
It is incorporating that.
Yeah, but with the caveat, they still want those upper basin states to do something.
Yeah, of course we do. And I'm not defending the upper basin, but I will say, I mean, we do use more of our allocation than they have, and they do have a different position being the headwaters because of how the water gets stored. It's not in a giant reservoir that gets, sent down to Colorado and Utah the same way it gets down to us. So the implementation process of cuts would be very different. And the federal government maybe doesn't even have the ability to do that the same way. So they're in a better position than us in a lot of ways. And as Jim mentioned, we kind of negotiated ourselves into a bit of a hole a while ago when we made that deal to get the CAP going, which certainly made sense at the time. But Arizona has never been on, the best foot in this negotiation. And this sets an interesting precedent, this thing that the federal government has put out today, that we're going to come back in 2 years and the upper basin states are going to be like, well, it worked out for us last time. Right. Don't see why we should do anything differently.
I was going to say, as far as reaction to this, the governor seemed to think that, okay, we can do this. But again, the upper state's got to do something.
Yeah, I think she overall celebrated it because, again, it's incorporating a lot of what the lower basin brought to the table, but the lower basin brought that to the table because they were at kind of a disadvantage with the upper basin just kind of holding fast on we're not going to do much other than take Mother Nature's cuts, as Jim said.
Does this mean now that Arizona will not be going to court on this, or at least waiting for a couple of years to go? Because there was an agreement back in, was it 1922 or whenever it was, that we do get Colorado River water to a certain extent. And I think they at one time, Tom Bushotsky was willing to go to court over that.
I think that the state's position has been, and probably will remain, that we will go to court to fight for to fight for the water that our leaders and water administrators think that we deserve out of this plan. I don't know that that's going to happen immediately. I think that for the next 2 years at least,
right.
But we'll see what happens in this next round of negotiations and how this thing is going to shake out for the rest of the decade. And I'm sure that litigation will be on the table.
So what are you watching for in all this? What do you expect to happen next? What are you looking for?
I think that the court question is my big outstanding question. That was the first thing that I looked for in the reactions we got from the governor and from state legislators is, are people so infuriated that they're saying we're filing a lawsuit today? And I didn't see that yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And I think that's still one of the main things is this all going to end up in a courtroom? And if so, what is that going to end up in for Arizona? But in terms of the water future of the state, your tap's not going to be dry. We have actually seen this coming for a very long time. And so the cities, municipalities who are large water users have been preparing for this to a degree. I think potentially water prices will increase as cities continue to diversify their water portfolios to put themselves in a better position going forward.
It also means probably a little bit more groundwater pumping, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, as Cameron said, they're going to diversify those portfolios, which have already been diversified. A lot of that comes from groundwater. Mm-hmm. A lot of it comes from some other rivers, Verde River, Salt River, things like that. So, yeah, so we're going to be pumping, and that water is depletable. It's not an everlasting resource. So, again, got to watch that and make sure we're managing those resources because we're going to be relying on them more in the future.
Is this an election issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think water is becoming more and more of an issue in Colorado River water. I think maybe it's not something that drives an election, but it's something that I think voters are starting to take note of after we've spent the last 10, 15, 20 years hearing, kind of the water experts just trying to raise an alarm and say, look, we have a problem that's coming down and that we need to be prepared for. And it's something that I don't think has resonated very well with voters, but I think once we start getting into a place where we have some restrictions imposed on water usage and on how much water comes into the cities, into the urban centers, I think at that point it's going to really start to resonate more with people, and people are going to start to take note of it.
So if it is an election issue, how? I mean, you're not for or against water here. How does this become an election?
I think everyone's for water, but it's about how you implement it, right? And I would agree, although I admit that I'm a little biased, that I think it's an interesting election issue. I think maybe in the governor's race, how you handle this, like can Republicans and Biggs tie this to being Hobbs's fault? So like it's her fault that we're taking water cuts. Mm-hmm. And I've already seen some of that. But also like Biggs has told me that we need to open up groundwater pumping, that we need to be able to access more groundwater. Whereas Hobbs has told me very clearly, I don't think we need to do that. I think we need to protect the groundwater that we have. She's really put the focus on groundwater conservation. So when it comes to opening up those other areas and not putting all of your eggs in one basket, where is the governor going to take the state? What direction is that water going to come from? What projects is the governor going to pursue? And there are a few other offices, but since that's the big ticket, I think that's going to be the one.
All right, Wayne, we had another big story today, and that's the Attorney General going ahead and closing out the investigation of the governor regarding Sunshine Residential Homes. Give us an overview of what's going on here.
That's right. This is kind of the so-called pay-to-play investigation that we've been talking about for 2 years now. Sunshine Residential, largest group home operator, foster home operator in the state, got a huge pay raise a few years ago. Arizona Republic broke that story. That happened after their founder gave, and family members and associated businesses gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to Hobbs and Democratic campaign efforts. So the allegation was this a quid pro quo? Was this a pay to play? So Attorney General Mays has been looking into that for years now. She ultimately concluded, or her investigators concluded, no, that nothing untoward happened here. She basically reiterated what the Hobbs camp has been saying for years, which is no, they're the biggest group home operator. They came to us and said they needed a rate increase. And if we lost them to the federal government, some of these other entities that utilize group homes, we would be in a real tough spot with all of these foster children who we have nowhere to put them. So the rate increase, they're saying, was a business decision, and Hobbs didn't influence it.
Yeah, so basically cleared of that. But the Attorney General just also saying something needs to be done, again, with another aspect of what was found during this investigation, and that was Sunshine doing actually more donations that even the Republic didn't find out in their original report.
Right, and I think that refers to the $150,000 that they'd given to a legal defense fund.
Yes.
For the governor, and essentially, what the AG's office said was there's nothing illegal, and there's nothing that we can prosecute here because we don't have that quid pro quo or that sign of pressure coming down from the governor's office. But this doesn't look good, and there's some really obvious, transparency and disclosure things that the governor and the state legislature should work toward to try to resolve. To essentially, even if there was no impropriety, right, to try to avoid that appearance of impropriety that leads people to go, hey, this looks like there's bribes happening or there's some other untoward behavior.
Oh, well, the whole hook on the thing is pay to play. I mean, that's how everyone seems to know this. So obviously it's a little clunky here.
Well, it just so happens that the state legislature had put up legislation that would have increased transparency and required the governor to disclose more about situations exactly like this. That was a result of this story breaking, and it was put up by, I believe, TJ Shope was the sponsor, and she killed it. She vetoed it. She said she didn't like it, and nothing that she put up got through. So I think that is a little bit pointed, and this whole, you didn't do anything illegal, but it looks bad, means you should probably do something if you don't want this to happen again in the future.
Yeah, I was going to say, the idea, you're okay, but no one wants to hear the but part of it here.
No, because it all goes back to corporate influence in politics. Whether or not this rate increase was the direct result of this campaign contribution, which the Attorney General said it is not, it still doesn't look great when you have this person who has never really given at this level in campaigns ever before, now pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into a campaign, and not just into the campaign finance reports that we all can access publicly, but we're talking about inauguration funds, legal defense funds, stuff that is completely dark behind the scenes. The only reason we have it is because after pressure, the Hobbs campaign released some of that information, and now in this report we got the additional information.
Yeah.
But so it's all this dark money coming that just leads people to not trust their leaders, their politicians, their officials, because we have no idea how much money is being funneled to these people by powerful interests.
With that in mind, impact on the governor's race, impact on the Attorney General's race.
Republicans, I think, are going to continue to try to make hay with this issue with the Andy Biggs campaign. It's been a talking point for them this whole time against Katie Hobbs that she's got corruption that he's going to come in and clear out. This finding, I don't think, is going to. It might blunt that a little bit, but it's not going to stop it. I think that it's going to continue to be a talking point of theirs. On the AG side, I'm sure that the Republican nominee Warren Peterson is also going to go after Mays and accuse her of burying and kind of sweeping this under the rug. It's campaign politics. I think that we can expect that, and all the same, I think we can expect the Democrats, Katie Hobbs and Chris Mays in this case, to defend themselves and say that the findings were legit and the investigation was serious. It took a long time, and at the end of the day, here's what we found.
Peterson, I think, already released something, didn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the damage has sort of been done in the governor's race, and now I'm looking at the Attorney General's race, because Peterson immediately took the opportunity to be like, well, Mays is a Democrat who's helping another Democrat, and this investigation just shows that she is going to go after her partisan interests and not the other things that maybe matter to the state of Arizona, whereas I, as Attorney General, would be so much better and more ethical and fix these problems. And so I think that it plays better for his campaign than anyone else's.
Plays better, but does it make a difference?
In this case, I think Republicans might be a victim of their own party leader. We've already seen that voters don't really care about all of the corruption, alleged corruption happening with the Trump administration, self-dealing, that kind of thing. And a lot of polling related to that has shown that so many voters now just expect this type of behavior from their politicians that I don't think it's a campaign issue anymore. Like, they expect their politicians to take money and to enrich themselves on the side. And so ultimately, if they're all doing it, then I'm going to focus on other issues that matter to me, like inflation, grocery prices, things that are affecting my everyday life.
Well, with that optimistic viewpoint, we'll move on to the next topic, and that is the Protect Education Act, Prop 212, We Hardly Knew Ye. What happened here?
What happened was they did not gather enough signatures. I mean, at bottom, that's really what it comes down to. I think they turned in about 430,000 signatures. They needed 255,000-ish to qualify for the ballot. And after challenge to the signatures to validity and everything like that, they came out with a number, kind of applied a state formula. Once all the checks came back from the counties, essentially they were right below the threshold, about 15,000 signatures below the threshold. Arizona Supreme Court this week ruled in the case and essentially rejected an argument from the Protect Education Act folks they were trying to convince the court to essentially to change the way that they considered these signatures, and it's in particular double-counted signatures.
Yeah.
It's really complicated. There's a state law that's been implemented and a couple of other cases that have determined sort of how courts are supposed to apply the law and evaluate signatures. Essentially, the Supreme Court said, look, the trial court judge did exactly what we've told judges to do, and he applied it the way that we've set out in these prior cases, and we don't see any evidence that he did anything wrong or that the formula and the way that courts do this needs to be changed under the existing statute. And so send it back to the trial court, and the trial court just essentially did the math and said, okay, well, you're off the ballot.
Yeah, Cameron, the duplicate signatures here, that was the big point. What's going on?
It wasn't the only point. I mean, they also threw out some of the signature gatherers as being invalid because they had criminal history.
But what duplicate signatures?
Duplicate signatures. Okay, so you can't have those, but it's a common mistake that happens when you're gathering because people, may not realize that they've already signed this petition, and then they come across a different signature gathered at a different location. The thing is, you're only supposed to throw out one of those, right? Because one of them should be valid, but only if you can prove that one of them is valid. And then what the counties get to check is a sample of, I think, 5% of the total amount of signatures. And so they calculate how many of those are correct, and then that formula gets applied to the final count. So the question is, depending on what kind of calculation you're using, how many of those double signatures actually get thrown out? And, the court went with the less favorable option to this group of public education advocates.
That's a lot of signatures being thrown out there, Wayne.
It is. And so, on one side, you could say that, we've got these overly aggressive laws that Republican legislature has passed for years that go after initiatives because they don't like the citizen initiative process. On the other side, you could say that these laws have been in place for a long time. You kind of know the lay of the land, so you have to be extra careful when you're collecting these signatures. You got to collect well more than you need, and you got to play by these rules as long as they exist. And so the folks behind the campaign ultimately are the ones who didn't make sure that they were being extra careful and turning in enough signatures to cover for all those that could be tossed out.
Yeah. And Jim, Prop 145, which was protected against measures like the long gone Prop 212, that one's gone too. They're all adios.
Yeah, so there's no vouchers, really. It's really, we at one point had 3 voucher proposals. We had 2 initiatives, and then the one from the legislature, the Prop 145. All of them are no longer not going to be on the ballot, so voters will not get their say on any aspect of the state's universal school voucher system.
So all that fussing and fighting and wheeling and dealing and all that kind of business that we spent so much time talking about here, poof.
Poof, and an expensive poof too, really, because there was a lot of money poured in, especially those initiative campaigns. I think collectively, they probably spent north of $12 million between the 2 different campaigns. Then all the litigation and the fighting over the past 4 weeks about what should be on the ballot and what shouldn't be on the ballot. But essentially it just all kind of melted like an ice cube on the sidewalk.
And we should mention the reason, very, very nice. We should mention that the reason that the voucher protection measure was off is because it had so many different things on it. It wasn't single issue, correct?
The poison pill measure, quote unquote?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a single subject issue.
Yes.
You can't have, exactly kind of for this reason, is that if you're voting on something, you can't include a bunch of other stuff, so that if someone wants to vote in favor of something, they have to agree to all this other stuff that's unrelated is the reason for that law. But it doesn't really matter now because, the thing that it's going up there to attack isn't there, and it's really, I think, an impressive failure. Really, the phrase I've heard the most often this week is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Like, man, you remember to never overestimate.
Yeah. And last point on this, ESAs, where do they stand now? It's November's election is the key to the future of ESA.
Yeah, now it all shifts to the actual candidates that we're going to be electing in November. I imagine that all these groups that were planning to back one side or the other on this are now going to spend a lot of money backing their candidates, especially for the legislature and the governor's office that back their point of view on the school voucher program, because we've been doing the public school advocates have been doing this for years, trying to get this on the ballot because it's been a Republican-controlled legislature. But if Democrats, after trying for decades and decades and decades, manage to take the legislature and Governor Hobbs stays in office, then they could just do it themselves at the legislature. But that's a lot of ifs.
All right, let's keep it moving here as far as a busy time for the courts. The election law changes. This is now Prop 144 in your program. This one now this stays on the ballot.
This did stay on the ballot. This also faced a similar legal challenge to what Cameron was just talking about, the separate amendment rule. And the critics of it had filed a lawsuit and said, look, this thing has like, I don't know, 7 or 8 different provisions. Mm-hmm. A couple of them don't really apply to the rest of them. They stand independent of the others, and they don't really fit kind of the milieu of trying to make secure elections or make faster results. And therefore it should be tossed off. The Supreme Court ultimately came back and said, no, these all work together. They're all kind of in the same topic. They all move elections in the same direction, and so therefore they're not worthy of separating. 2 of the Supreme Court justices, however, disagreed and said, no, we think that this thing should be kicked off the ballot, and these actually are separate questions. But they were in the minority, and so that view didn't hold. Yeah,
and the idea of it being separate questions, the court basically said, the majority of the court, that they don't have to be separate things you can vote on as long as they are separate things within the umbrella of a single subject.
It's kind of a case-by-case basis because Arizona state law doesn't say, oh, okay, everything's fine as long as it falls into revised statutes Title I, Chapter 11. Like, it sort of depends on the situation, and I think that the poison pill that we talked about earlier was crafted in preparation of a single subject issue, because they're like, no, this is all about funding for military families. That's what the title of the bill is. And even that wasn't narrow enough in that case because of how it was crafted. And in this case, yeah, it's technically a more broader subject because it's election reform, and I think that's a wider umbrella. But in the same vein, it's different. It's not, 2 things that contradict another ballot measure, for example.
Yeah, and we're going to talk much more about Prop 144 on Monday, just as a programming note here. But the language describing Prop 144, now that's still a debate, right? That's still being considered.
Well, no, the language on the ballot itself was actually upheld, I believe.
So that was?
Yeah,
okay.
That's Secretary Fontes' language. That's going to appear on the ballot itself. Yeah, the opponents were critical of the language he chose because nowhere in there.
No, you're right. Yeah, they basically said they thought he was advocating, and the court said not so fast.
Yeah, so basically he didn't include anything in there about you need to be a citizen to vote, even though that's mentioned twice in the law. It's mentioned in the title that the lawmakers chose. Now, the reason his office told me they did that is because that's already illegal. And he's like, We have 50 words here, so we got to focus on the actual changes so we can inform voters what's actually going to change. The Supreme Court basically made 2 decisions. They said the voters who sued didn't have the right to sue in the first place because basically their disagreement with the description was too broad of a complaint that any voter could have. You didn't have any specific issue that's hurting you. But then they're like, and even if you did have the right to sue, we would throw it out because, and again, another split decision, because the Secretary of State has the power to write these. And so barring it being extremely misleading, the court's not going to step in. And in this case, they said it wasn't.
Said it was not false and it was not misleading.
Correct. And they essentially deferred to the discretion of Secretary of State Adrian Fontes and said, look, the law allows them to decide what needs to be put before voters in this, again, a 50-word, like 2 or 3 sentences to put on the ballot. What is it that needs to go there? It's up to the Secretary of State to determine, and in this case, he emphasized the new changes that would be added to the state constitution and not things that are just including laws, essentially, that we already have had on the books for 100 years.
I just want to gently note Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, the incumbent Democrat running against Republican Alexander Culloden, who wrote that ballot measure.
Yes.
And is campaigning on it.
Yeah, we're going to bring that up, but thank you for bringing it up.
I wanted to mention it.
Yes, that's good. Last point here before we go. It sounds like John Giles basically met the media, and so now we know a little bit. Been on the show numerous times, but as far as doing this, Lieutenant Governor, what do we take from what we've heard from Mr. Giles, former mayor of Mesa?
Give Wayne for writing a really damn good story about it, but basically he's saying that we're putting Arizona over party, and this is a sign that Governor Hobbs is willing to do that because she's such a great governor, and they have so many ideals that they share, even though they come from different political backgrounds, and everything's lovely. Although I think in practice, we're all kind of questioning, what does that mean on specific issues that tend to be very partisan for him, who used to be Republican, is now technically no party affiliation, but is running on a ticket with a Democrat? Has he really done a 180?
All right, Wayne, go for it.
Yeah, and the press pool at the most recent event, we kind of pushed him on that. We're like, well, name specific issues where you disagree with the governor. Because if your whole pitch is that I picked this former Republican so that I can show Arizonans that we don't have to agree on everything as long as we agree on kind of these broader ideals. We're like, all right, well, what are those specific things you disagree? And John Giles literally said, well, almost nothing. And then when pushed on specific issues, abortion, some of the transgender rights issues that are very lightning rod issues that divide Republicans and Democrats, he basically fell in line with all of the governor's positions. So it kind of lends credence to the Biggs campaign's criticism that John Giles has not really been a Republican for longer than he's said, because he essentially on all these major issues, he's falling in line with more the Democratic Party line.
What about ESA? He says he still supports school choice, so I wasn't sure about that one.
Well, he said he still supports school choice, but actually every time we asked him that question, he continued to just say, we need strong public schools. And that has been a line that most Democrats have taken recently. Yes, Governor Hobbs wanted to roll back the expansion, like when she first took office, but in the past few years, she's and Democrats generally have kind of been like, well, we just want reforms. And he said he agreed with the governor's call for reforms. So even on that topic, he's not really departing from her line of thinking.
All right. Very briefly, Jim, so the clunky debut has now been smoothed over here a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, in as much as it matters, this lieutenant governor, it's novel and it's new and whatever, but really at the end of the day, I don't know. When voters go to the polls, I don't know. There's probably not going to be a whole lot of voters that say, oh, John Giles and Sina Kerr, that's what's going to decide my vote. People are going to look at Katie Hobbs and Andy Biggs and make their decision pretty clearly.
All right, we'll stop it right there, panel. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. And weekend. I like to think that at Arizona Horizon we are unique in